Welcome to the Empower Series, my online audience, and welcome to everybody here. Give yourself a big round of applause for being here. So again, good morning and welcome to the first event of the 2026 Empower Series. And our first event is really 90 days to done. It's completed. We are going to talk about goal setting in a new way. So I want you to go ahead and underneath the video, if you're watching on YouTube, there are links to all of the handouts that we're going to talk about, and there's also handouts to the slides that Casey's going to talk about as well. So you can always go back and refer to this. We're going to talk about some goal setting, and we're going to talk about it from a scientific perspective and a behavioral perspective, so that you put ideas and goals to action, because action is the food for goals. We're also going to not just do this in this workshop, we're also going to do it for the next 3 months. We're going to have group coaching on the first Saturday of February, March, and April. So that's the 7th, and 4th at 10 o'clock Central Time. I'll tell you more about that before we bounce. But right now I want to get out the way because our speaker has a lot of content to cover in a short amount of time. But this is not, at the very end, it's not the end, it's just the beginning. So I really want to welcome everybody who took the time out of their lives to be here in person. Also, if you're watching this online, your time is the most precious resource. So I am honored to introduce our facilitator today, Casey Hayden. He is an ICF trained executive and professional coach. He's an alumni of the UT Dallas coaching program. He's also a retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. Casey specializes in science-backed behavioral change and practical tools to put those goals into action and create habits that will sustain you. So without any further ado, bring a warm welcome to our presenter, Casey Hayden. Thank you, man.
Thanks. Thank you all very much. It's a pleasure to be out here, and I'm so happy to be partnering with Clifton in the Enterprise or the Empower series to be able to bring this content and support to you. Very quickly, let me just kind of give you an introduction to why human behavior and motivation is important to me. So thinking back in my early years in the United States Air Force, 1998, the embassy bombings in Nairobi, Kenya, and Dar es Salaam, I happened right after that event, and it took place in August. In September, I was in Morocco doing some work for the Air Force along with 26 other military members. What I didn't know is at that same time, the German officials were rounding up all the Al-Qaeda cells in Germany that had anything to do with the embassy bombings. And what I ended up happening is as I was flying from Morocco back to Frankfurt International Airport on a commercial airliner, the German officials surrounded our plane and ended up asking each one of us to show our passports and get off the plane. When I went down and I got to the bottom of the stairwell, there were 3 men in handcuffs. What I later found out is they were 3 Osama bin Laden Al-Qaeda terrorists on board my plane. And so it touched me personally and made me really think about human motivation and behavior. How can somebody like bin Laden, highly educated, multiple degrees, affluent, wealthy, good family, networks, how can they make decisions and take actions to go and blow up innocent people standing in line in a US embassy in Africa? And so for the last 30 years of my life, I dedicated most of my adult life to being able to understand human motivation so that I could help determine what these adversaries of the United States were willing to do to American interests and American people overseas, forecast what they were going to do, and then present that information to somebody who could go and do something about it, head them off the path before they could do another bombing or explosion or kill people. So for 30 years I did that. At the same time, I had a slightly different responsibility of taking, especially as an Air Force commander, taking new people entering the Air Force, 18, 19, 20 years old, and motivating and encouraging them to do things that were very unnatural to them, to be able to deploy to faraway areas, to live in a tent, to leave their families, to not celebrate Christmases and birthdays and all those special holidays with their friends and family. Not only do it, but be willing to do it because they found a higher purpose and a calling that made that calling more important than actually being there with their friends and attending parties and things like that. So I've been looking at human motivation for a long time, over 30 years now. Now, along with my International Coaching Federation training through the University of Texas at Dallas, the Executive and Professional Coaching Program, and my affiliation with the International Coaching Federation of North Texas, the chapter of this worldwide international coaching organization, I now bring all these experience and talents trying to help individual people figure out how to get a hold and channel their motivation and desires to create the life that they want and to build that path on the way to achieving it. So thank you all for coming today. I'm so happy that you're here, and we'll go ahead and get started. I do have a lot of information, but this presentation is really about you. So not just the folks here in the room, but the folks online. If you have questions, if you have something you want to know, Clifton Johnson's going to be monitoring chat. So throw up your hand, because ultimately I want to be able to give you the information to make this relevant to you. So I could talk for 6 hours straight, but Clifton's going to make sure I only talk for a shorter period of time. But ultimately I want to answer your questions. So please stop me and ask all the questions you want so that you walk out of here today, or when you sign off online, you have the information to be able to start your 90-day action plan. So today we're going to look at a little bit of what International Coaching Federation actually is. We're going to look at what actually happens in human change and human behavior. We're going to start the process of creating your 90-day plan. You might finish it all today, or it might be so much information that you really just need to go home and digest it after, drinking a beverage or something like that. We're going to look at what I call the strive for change framework for change. And then we're going to look at ways to stay on track in February, March, and April, so that this is not just a single event, but it's a event that after today, Clifton and I are going to be able to support you to help you stay on track, or to help you get back on track if you should fall off. So we'll go ahead and get started today. What I do want to start with very quickly, and I'm going to try to do this very quickly, but life on this planet has been here for about 4 billion years, and human beings have been here for about 200,000 to 300,000 years, depending. And there's two processes that keep human beings and life alive to help us propagate the species and continue over another 4 billion years. And the first process is the reward system. So the idea of neurotransmitters and hormones like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, those are all there to help us when we conduct an activity or an action like eating or drinking water. We immediately get that feedback. We have a sense of dopamine that gives us pleasure, that says eating or water is important for keeping us alive. So it's those chemicals that reinforce our behaviors that say, keep doing this and you're more likely to stay alive, because that's built into who we are. Serotonin is that feeling of contentment. So when we feel at peace, when we're doing something we enjoy, when we can feel relaxed, serotonin is created in our body. And then oxytocin is that hormone or that neurotransmitter that when we develop a relationship with a spouse or a loved one, or a parent to a child or a friend, or even my little corgi that I have at home, Tilly, when I'm with my corgi, my body produces more oxytocin, because it's helping me establish that bond, because my body and my brain know that building that bond is more likely to keep me alive and to help me proliferate and propagate and do well in this planet. The converse to that is the stress response, right? The fight or flight response. When we feel stress, when we feel a threat, when our eyes and ears, our senses start giving us information that says this is a threatening situation, we're about to get eaten by a saber-toothed cat, or that storm is coming, we need to do something about it, our body immediately starts taking action so that we can protect ourselves, that stress response. So we can either fight or we can flee away. It starts producing more cortisol. Cortisol helps us process glucose so that we have more energy to actually, when we start fighting, we have energy to sustain that fight. Or if we're running away, so we have more energy to be able to keep running away because our body is metabolizing that glucose to be able to produce energy. Our body is helping us produce adrenaline and norepinephrine so that we can focus. We zoom in on what that threat is, and all the exterior stuff around us, we're not taking up our bandwidth in our brain because we're focused in on that threat. We get tunnel vision. And it helps our heart rates and our blood pressure increase so that we can get that glucose and all these other neurochemicals throughout our body. And then we have endorphins, the body's natural painkiller, so that if we are fighting or we have to flee, if we are taking punches or we get stabbed or we're running and all of a sudden we get a cramp on our side, those endorphins are coming in as the body's natural painkiller so that we can forget about that pain and actually save ourselves and get to a point where we feel safer. So the reward system and the stress system, believe it or not, have a lot to do with your New Year's resolutions and your goals in 2026. So any questions on this, anything that doesn't make sense that I can try to clarify a little bit more for you? Okay, so reward system and, oops, hello. There we go. And originally the colors were red and blue, maybe indicating this is bad, this is good. But when you think about it, they just are what they are. And our body's goal is to have these in balance, in homeostasis, because we're always producing all of these things, but we want them to be in balance. And so in order for our body to really keep this balance, we have to have awareness of maybe our body chemistry, of, do we have large amounts of cortisol going through our body right now? Do we feel stress? Do we feel anger? Are we yelling at people? We have to have an idea of our genetics. Did I inherit or have a predisposition to have an increase in cortisol or stress hormones from my parents? Is that learned behavior that I learned from them? We need to have an understanding of how exercise and diet and sleep affects our body's ability to produce these hormones and neurotransmitters, and then the environment as well. The stress around us, maybe even the toxins of where we live and work, all impact our body's abilities to stay in homeostasis and balance all these neurotransmitters together. So that's a little bit of science. Now, we're going to step away from the science for a second, and I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into what we as International Coaching Federation, ICF credentialed coaches, refer to coaching. All of us here, and hopefully people online, can remember back, especially when we were younger, of our parents or a sibling, a mentor, somebody has said, when I was your age, I wish I would have known, and if I had to do it again, I would do blah, and you should go out and do X, Y, and Z. And like this picture, how many of us actually listen to that, right? Because human experiences is, we can have people tell us all day long, but we have to live it. We have to feel it. And so what we have here is a situation of mentoring and advising, but it's not coaching. Coaching is about a partnership where I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm listening to you and helping you see things in a new light and a different lens. Let me use a different example for you. So this is, if you can't tell, this is kind of going into the woods, a path. Person here wants change, wants new behaviors, is trying to do their New Year's resolutions in 2026, and they get on the path. They're going to hack through the forest, jump over the streams, and they're going to make it over that hill to what their destination is, the proverbial city of gold, right? That's where we're trying to get to. I could go with them, and if I was advising or mentoring with them, that person, or if that's you, I can give you my shoes, and you can put my shoes on, and you can go through the woods. Now, maybe Mr. Johnson can put my shoes on and feel comfortable, but I don't think Miss Sharon over here is going to want to put my shoes on and go through the woods in my 12.5 shoes and trying to jump through the streams and hack through the woods and things like that. And you certainly don't want to go through the woods with my wife Pam and her size 7, women's size 7 heels, because it's not going to be comfortable. So what that means is you're going to get certain point down that path, it's going to feel uncomfortable, and you're going to start coming back to the safety of the open field instead of going on over the hill. So with ICF coaching, I'm your co-pilot. I'm your side saddle. I'm the person that's sitting with you, and I'm not telling you where to go. You're the person in front guiding where we go. I'm the person in back saying, hey, do you see all those hippopotamuses around the corner? They look pretty hungry and mean. What do you want to do about it? Hey, do you see that quicksand off to the right? I'm not telling you how to avoid it. I'm not telling you where to go. I'm calling things out so you can make your own decisions and figure out your own solutions. Because again, by me telling you what to do and giving you solutions does not fit the context of your life and your situation. So what you need is somebody that's a partner, a thought partner, so that you can talk with them to be able to realize those solutions for yourself, because your context is always different than somebody else's that's offering you solutions. So keep that in mind. So ultimately, coaching is about when we look at our problems, we're looking at them through that tiny lens. And coaching is about expanding your lens wider so you can start seeing alternatives and solutions that exist over here, because all you're doing is bore-sighted in that area. So it's about opening up and expanding your point of view. So as an ICF coach, that's what I do. I don't tell people what to do, and I'm not here to tell you what to do. What I am here to do is to offer information to you, answer questions, and then you get to pick solutions and choices that conform to your life and in your environment. All right, so 9 people answer the question, what do you hope to gain from attending this workshop? So commitment, maybe commitment to actually carrying out change, a plan of action, an improved plan. So somebody sounds like started something and it didn't seem to be the right path, so maybe they need to kind of pivot to a new direction, and networking values, okay? All right, so as we start thinking about goals in 2026 and getting to the point where we can start filling out this worksheet and looking what areas of life that you want to start change, let's look at change itself. Hello, come on back. Okay, so in the 1980s, Dr. Prochaska, Dr. DiClemente, psychologists that were helping clients quit smoking. They noticed there was a pattern that people went through as they went through the process of trying to stop smoking. The first stage is pre-contemplation. Everything's great. I don't need to change. I'm just fine the way I am. I'm just happy as can be. Then something happens where we go from everything's great to pre-contemplation, which is, ooh, maybe I need to start making some changes. Then we get into preparation, where we start gathering resources around us and get ready for the change. And then we actually go to action, where we take action, we make a decision, we do something that gets us ready for making that change and veering off our path in a different direction. And then hopefully, what you'll end up doing is after taking that action, you're able to incorporate it into the rest of your life and make it a permanent part of your life. So let's look at personal example for me. We just finished with the holiday season, Hanukkah and Christmas, gift-giving season, and as soon as Black Friday hits and I see all the sales for 75-inch TVs at 40%, my eyes start looking. I go into the stores and I just have dopamine pumping through me. It's like seeing my wife for the first time, you know. I just have dopamine just pumping through me saying, that is gonna make me happy. That's gonna bring contentment. And if I didn't tell you before, this is my wife, Pam. Pam and I have been married for 30 years, and she is my life and business partner. So I see all those TVs, and I start wanting to just buy all the gadgets. Then all of a sudden, January, February hits, and I get the credit card bills, right? And it's like, oh man, what am I gonna do? Why did I do this? Did I really need that 75-inch TV? Because we watch Alabama football. Roll Tide. And when you watch Alabama football, you gotta have it on a big screen with all the surround sound and everything else. Otherwise, it's just not the same experience. So, but in February, all of a sudden, I start questioning those choices. And then what I do is I start doing the preparation. I start gathering up all my credit cards that I have a balance on and start figuring out what the payment dates are. What's the minimum balance due? What's the interest rate? Should I pay this one off first? How much should I pay in this one? And how little can I pay on this one and still eat and cover my mortgage and rent and things like that? So those are the stages, and I never even get to the point of action. So what I want to do is I want to start bringing this to the worksheet now. So while I'm talking, I want you to look down to the first portion of the worksheet. And this is a copy of it here, so it should look hopefully exactly like this. And I want you to think of an area of your life where you were riding fine, everything was great, I don't need to change, this is awesome, to now whatever it is that's going on that you're thinking about, we've gone into that pre-contemplation where, maybe this area of life, I should make some changes. Things aren't going as smoothly as I want, and I really want, by the end of 2026, for it to be different. So I want you to start thinking about that and capturing it. And I'm going to keep talking, but does anything come to mind right now for y'all? Does everybody have kind of a concept, something that's resonating with them, or are people just still kind of struggling? Anybody want to volunteer with what they're thinking? Yes, sir. Leo.
Well, you and I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but I'm thinking about more streams of income in this part of my life. And then it's important to have a sense of well-being and management of your funds and so forth. Well, the advantage is that you can give more to charities, you can do generational wealth like I was mentioning to you. And some of the disadvantages is just starting and getting good advice.
All right, so I want you to hold on to some of those things and remember those as we get to kind of later portions of the presentation. And as Leo was talking about it, okay, come on back. All right, so area of life that you're thinking about changing, and then what makes it important to you now? What is it that has gotten you from everything's great to now I'm thinking that something needs to change? What is that makes it important right now? And then as you start thinking about what are the advantages of if I change this area of my life, if I start contemplating a new path, what is that new path going to bring me, allow me to do? How is that going to help me? What is it going to do to actually help me create more dopamine in my body and start stimulating those reward centers? What are the disadvantages that if I keep going and buying 75-inch TVs and all the gadgets at the electronics store, what are the disadvantages to continuing that behavior? What won't I be able to do? What can I do? So if you start thinking about it, really what we're doing is we're creating the concept of running to something. I want to run to something that's positive, that stimulates that reward center in my brain, and I want to run from something that is more negative and stimulates the stress responses in my body. Okay, so if I go on and keep going, is anybody need me to stop, slow down, or are we able to go on? All right, okay. So despite our good intentions, 80% of us that make a New Year's resolution give up on that New Year's resolution by mid-February. In other words, we're going down that path, about to go over the hill to the city of gold, to our destination, and we decide that the plants in the forest is too thick and the alligators are too scary, and we're going to turn back around and head back that path, down the path towards safety. So if we look at this, here's Casey, pre-contemplation. Ooh, shiny objects, everything's great. Oh my gosh, I get the bill, what am I gonna do? I gather up all the information, I know I need to start doing something, and now I'm to the point of ambivalence. I can just as easily continue my bad behavior or behavior that I don't want to do anymore, or make a change and do something different. So how do we get past that point of ambivalence where we could make changes or just stay comfortable and keep doing what we're doing? So looking at same information in a slightly different way, how do we tip the scales towards action and doing something? And the way you do that is your change has got to be important to you, and you have to have confidence that you can do it. Without those two things, without the change being important to you, you are going to retreat by mid-February. You're going to head back to that path of the open field and not make the journey to the other side of the hill. As you take those steps on the path to get to the other side of the hill, you have to have confidence that you can overcome those barriers and you can fight off those alligators, or you have a plan to deal with them. So we have to have importance regarding our change, and we have to have confidence that we can actually achieve it. And confidence becomes something important, because how many times do we go out and say, I'm going to exercise. My New Year's resolution is I'm going to go to the gym 4 days out of the week. Well, yes, sir. Is that you? Yes, sir.
This might be some of your presentation a little later, but you haven't spoken about fear. That's I'm saying that a lot of these things that are doing, you have fear that stops you from moving.
We're going to talk a little bit about it, but you're right. Because that fear of failure, the fear of succeeding, the fear imposter syndrome, the fear of I'm not relevant, I don't matter, those fear cause us to run from something instead of run to something. Let me put it in a really tangible way that might make sense to y'all. So standing up in front of a crowd and giving a presentation is one of the biggest fears that people across the world say, that it's just scary getting up in front of people. And if I thought about getting up in front of people and I might fall and I might stumble on my chords and my PowerPoint might not work the way I want, I would be running, I would be afraid, and this wouldn't be effective. But what I choose to think about is I'm running to you. I'm running to you because I have information I hope will help. I'm running to you because I want you to succeed. I want you to be able to change and accomplish the things that you want. And if I stumble, that's okay, because ultimately what matters is I'm trying to help you, and if I look silly or something, it doesn't matter as much as trying to get the information so that you can benefit and succeed. I'm running to you as opposed to running from fear. Yes, sir.
First, anybody who recognizes Alabama football is all right by me. Second, you talked about the importance of the change, it being important to you, and you may cover this later, I hope you do. What if you've been fooling yourself that it's important to you, but in the end, and it should be important to you, but in the end, that could be why you're not making a change. But, and let me, again, put that in there. It should be important to you. And I just use the example of health. Right.
So that's a great question we're going to talk about a little bit. But let me touch on it now. Should is one of those words that as a life coach, when somebody tells me in a session, I should be doing, well, what is it about? What about should? What makes you feel like you should? And really what that starts getting to is those belief systems, that baggage we carry with us from either trauma or experiences, things that we learned from our parents. That baggage that we're drawing around with us, carrying on our back, becomes the shoulds and I ought to, but they don't reflect what's really in your heart. It doesn't reflect the thing below the thing, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute. So, with importance and confidence, I can go and I can tip the scale from feeling a stress response to feeling the reward response of running to something to stimulate that production of dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. And really what this is a huge, complex dance where our values and our identity and our behaviors all start mixing around. And most of the time, what we end up doing is when we start off with a goal or a New Year's resolution, we start with a behavior. I'm going to go to the gym 4 days out of the week. And we have no idea how it affects our behaviors or our values and how our identity is involved. Our values being that moral compass, that internal compass that guides us towards what we think is important in life, those left and right boundaries that says, here's what's important, here's how I want to live my life. Our identity is who I think I am, who I see myself as, and who I want you to see me as. All those things start going into our identity, and then the behavior is our actions, the things that we do on a daily basis. So we start off with the actions, and I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna buy a car sometime in 2026. But we don't have any concept of how our values and our identities are involved in that. You can use sheer willpower and start off with your behaviors, and after about 3 weeks, sometimes 6 months, after that sheer willpower, your behaviors can change your identity and your values, but it takes sheer willpower to do it. What if you flipped it? And you start now with your values. You start thinking about what those things are important to me. What is my compass guiding me towards how I want to live my life? Those values dictate how I see myself and how I want others to see me, and it dictates what kind of behaviors. So let me put this in a perfect example. I'm about 35 pounds heavier than when I retired from the Air Force in 2021. I'm about 10, 15 pounds heavier than I was in October because I celebrated the 30-year anniversary with my wife on a cruise in New England, and I ate my backside off. So, but when I was active duty, my values were, I believe in meritocracy, and I believe that whatever decisions I make as a commander, I have to be able to live by them. I can't hold other people accountable for falling short if I'm not willing to do them myself. So PT, you can be kicked out of the Air Force for failing PT, not doing well in PT. So I got up at 4 o'clock every single morning, and by 5 I was in the gym, and I was running 2 to 3 miles every day and working out, and then doing a 12 or 14-hour day. Yes, I did that because I helped relieve stress. The biggest reason why I did it was because my values were, I cannot hold people accountable and kick them out of the Air Force unless I was willing to meet the PT standard myself. I lead from the front. My values are, I'm not gonna ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself, and my identity is, I lead from the front. And people who lead from the front get up and make sure they can PT, make sure that whatever decisions they make takes everybody into account and doesn't show favoritism and all those other things. My values and identity led to my behavior. Now that I don't have that identity anymore, I'm 30 pounds heavier than I was. I know it's important to go run. I know it's important not to go to the refrigerator at 8 o'clock at night and eat chocolate cake. But my values and my identity are not enough right now to get me back into the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's just the simple nature of it. But what is important to me is I've got a 26-year-old daughter who is out in LA and engaged and gonna get married, and I wanna have enough stamina to be able to walk her down the aisle. I want to have enough stamina to be able to stand up in front of a great crowd like y'all to be able to talk to you for an hour without huffing and puffing. So those are things that I'm working on right now to align my values and identity so my behavior actually changes to actually working out and doing the things that I know I need to do. So you can see KC TVs, bill comes in, money's flying out of my pocket. And so when we start looking at that as negative behaviors, we can start looking at what our values are. So in deciding what is important to us by looking at our values. So in this particular example, I used to go buy gadgets all the time, but as soon as I got married and I had 2 daughters, Pam and she had the daughters, I helped. It became important for me not just to think about myself, but to think about, if I'm not around, how are they going to be financially secure without me? What can I do to help prepare for them to be financially secure, because I don't want to be the reason why they're living on the streets and not being able to eat. So our identity becomes, I am someone who ensures my family secure even if I'm not around. I'm someone who's committed to my family's financial security and doesn't rely on the strategy of hope. And I'm someone who chooses future security over present indulgences, which leads to the behaviors that maybe I seek financial education, I contribute to savings, I develop a 401k and invest in 529 plans. These things become much easier to do because when you're a person with these values and this identity, these become a natural outgrowth of people with those values and identity. So our behaviors become a result of the values and identity. So, Mr. Leo, this is going to get into some of what you're talking about. I do a lot of coaching with young adults, people that are thinking about college, maybe they're thinking about trade school. They go to college and they're not sure what to major in, or they're coming out of college and they're not sure what job they want to try to pursue after college. And especially those freshmen and sophomore that are having a really struggling time that first or second semester, and they end up getting poor grades. Parents contact me, or sometimes the adult children contact me, and the parents saying, oh, my child has poor time management, and they don't know how to study, and they don't have any focus, they don't know how to balance priorities. And the school's reaction is to create courses that go and do those things. Well, if they don't know how to prioritize, we're gonna give them a little course and tell them how to do it. If they don't know how to plan, we're gonna give them a planner. It's gonna be a free planner, and they're gonna write down all their activities and things like that. But none of that helps, because what those are the symptoms. And we start getting into the root causes, which is the raw human emotion that drives everything that we do on a daily basis. Hate, love, anger, jealousy, friendship, togetherness. Those are the things that drive our activities. And when you get in touch with those things of why you're afraid, the symptoms start taking care of themselves. So in this particular case, you have a student who is, I don't even know why I'm in college. I go to class, but I don't really care. I'm not listening, I'm not paying attention because I don't know what to do while I'm in college. I have no interest in this major, and this is true. My parents have already decided what I'm gonna major in. They know I'm gonna go into pre-law, and I'm gonna come out a lawyer, and they're gonna go into the business, the family business, and I'm supposed to be a lawyer in the family business. They've got my entire future planned, but that's not what I want. So how motivated are they gonna be to actually do these things? Or I might be surrounded by 25,000 other students, but I still feel lonely. I feel lonely sitting in an auditorium of 300 people around me. So when you start addressing the loneliness and the fear and the frustration, these will start to take care of themselves. And so this is where we get to the idea of metaphors. These symptoms oftentimes are metaphors for those things that are below the thing. The root cause, the thing below the thing, which is what in the coaching industry, what we usually refer to it. The biggest metaphor there is, money. Money does not do a damn thing for you. What money does is a symbol and a metaphor for something else. Money is that symbol of, I grew up poor and I didn't know where my next meal was. I want this financial security to know that me and my children don't ever have to worry about where our next meal is going to come from. Money is representation of, I want independence to be able to do what I want when I want, so that I don't have to rely on somebody employing me where I'm working 12 to 15 hours. It's a symbol, it's a metaphor. When you put money, it's not that money's not important, don't get me wrong. It's plenty important, but really what you're after and what you're trying to do is you're trying to satisfy those root causes, those values, which is independence. Let's see if I have here. You're trying to satisfy these values of dignity and respect, autonomy, purpose and meaning in our life, right? What do we do in the second chapter after retirement from our primary vocation? And oftentimes they come into conflict with something else. I don't like the way my job's treating me. I don't feel like they respect me, but it's more important to me to stay in that job because it offers security and it helps me pay my rent and things like that. So our values have hierarchy and priority to them. And for you to understand where your values are and where they are in hierarchy means you're gonna have a much better opportunity to be successful at creating the right goals and actually being successful at accomplishing them. So going back to the worksheet, Next section 2. When we start looking at starting with your values, most of the time it's easiest to start with our values. When you're talking about this area of life that you're thinking about changing, what are the values that touch it? You want independence. You want creativity. You value life experiences and travel as opposed to sitting in a cubicle. Start writing those things down of what your values are and how they relate to the area of life that you're talking about changing. So if it's health and wellness, then start thinking about the values. I value spending time with my daughter and being there when she needs me. So with that, I want to be able to walk her down the aisle. Start talking about the values, the area of life, and connecting how those come together for you. For others of us, either depending on the person or depending on the area of life that you're talking about, it might be easier to start with your identity. I am someone who sees myself as a protector of my family. And so as somebody who does this, or who is a protector of my family, I am someone who does ... and start filling in those blanks of your identity. And regardless of whether you started with values or identity on the next block, if you started with one, then in the next block, start bringing them together where you're joining them together. I have these values that the compass that guides me towards what's important to my life. This creates an identity that I am someone who, and then we can start building from here. Any questions on this? Yes, sir. It's a lot of work.
You know, writing down goals, like if you want to work out, you write down goal, I want to, work out so many times a week, reach a certain weight, whatever, you write it down, then you just start doing the action. This just seems like it's a lot of work in between all of that. So why does it have to be that way?
It is a lot of work. So it really depends on, you can try all sorts of different, and I'm not here to say that this is the only way to do it. This is a way you can do it because it's all about action experiments, and you keep experimenting with the thing that actually works. But in this case, it is a lot of work, and you can either take the time and energy to think through these things now, or you can expend the time and energy by having a bunch of false starts. You can get on this path, and then you can retreat and head back, and then you can get on this path, and then retreat and head back. Or you can do the work ahead of time and figure out what the path is that you actually want to get on so that you can make it to the other side of the hill.
Speak to the value of having a coach. It sounds like. So again, I play football, right? And so I know the value of practicing, having a coach, a specialist coach, and working out. But it seems like in life, when it comes to the goals that we have in life, what's the value? And speak to this. I think I know what it is, but I want to hear it because I think trying to do it on your own, you get a lot of false starts. And one of the reasons why we want to do the 3 months of coaching is to keep people in line and to do the work, right? So speak to that.
So the most important thing is human beings, we're pack animals, right? We are social people that we are better off. We have societies and cities together because we learned a long time ago that when we work together, we're more likely to stay alive and solve problems and make things better, right? So we have evolved to be together. And there's something that happens. So one of the great things is most coaches have our own coach. We coach with other people all the time because what ends up happening is we have all these thoughts going at lightning speed. You ever see the movie The Matrix with Keanu Reeves, right? And Keanu Reeves, beginning of the movie, he's just getting lit up and tossed around and beat to hell, right? By the end of the movie, he's able to slow things down, he's able to dodge, right? Having a coach or having somebody you can talk with slows that lightning storm down in your brain so that when you have to convey it in words or write it down external to you, now all of a sudden the storm calms and you start making coherent thought of really getting to understand what it is inside of you so that you can get to that thing below the thing. So working with somebody else, whether it's a friend, spouse, adult child, whoever it is, being able to sit down and talk with them gives us the opportunity to bring those things external to us to help bring order to it. So, you know, I'm an old guy right on Facebook, so only old people are on Facebook. The younger kids like Instagram and all the other things. But the old expression of making something Facebook official, right? Pam and I are getting married and it's Facebook official now because we put it out. We put it into the world and we called it into existence and we brought it external to us, so now we are announcing it to everybody. When we announce external to us, those things that we're trying to do and achieve, it makes it real to us, because as long as it stays inside, we make excuses, life happens, and it's not real. So bringing it outside, whether it's to a coach or to somebody, or even just writing it down, makes it real. All right.
Casey, you sort of explained, when you were covering those two areas, I thought about culture and those things
Culture, yeah.
that drive you a certain way.
Yeah.
Some of your values you have to come against.
What's that?
Some of the values that you developed or the culture is driven into you, you have to unshackle those to go towards your goals, so to speak.
Great point. And that is a perfect segue to what I'm going to cover right now. Yes, sir.
That's what I want to kind of get into. When you talk about false starts, sometimes, and there's a commercial that's on TV that resonates with me every time I hear it. The person says, "God blesses who you are, not who you say you are." How do we get to the point of really knowing our identity and value? Because we'll curve fit it to what we want to be, but that's not really our identity and values. How do we start to really whittle away of this is our identity and this is who we are, even if it's ugly?
And that's hard because, you know, here I am, I've been on this planet for 56 years and I'm still discovering things about myself that I didn't realize. I still have things that are good and bad. I can't believe I did that. I was so stupid. Or I can't believe I was able to do this. This is amazing. How did I do that? We're always learning about ourselves, and we have to take the time to be able to sit down. So it's a matter of reflection in our own lives, and then it's a matter of getting it externally, either writing it down or talking to somebody about it, you know, chatting with our spouse. Pam knows everything about me. Not a single secret between us. And it's not because we have some special marriage. It's because we learned through hard work and effort. When we are completely upfront and honest with each other, our lives are better and we feel better. And so it took us, you know, many, many, many decades to get to that point. But you have to be willing and honest with yourself. And so when we start looking at who am I now, where am I at, what is my identity and values, and in 90 days, in 2026, what is it that I want to become? And start identifying what this gap is in between. Visualizing what that difference is. Visualizing the person you want to be. Visualizing the values you want to have, the things that you want to accomplish. Because we're not going to do it unless we can see it. And if we can't see it, then we're going to meander on a bunch of different paths, going through the forest and never get to our destination. So we got to see it, we got to visualize it. And it starts getting into, we have old beliefs. When we start to open up our lens, we realize we've been shackled by these old beliefs. And we have to start changing those belief systems and not being afraid, not because when our parents told us this is just the way life is, this is what your role is, you're the older sibling, as a good employee, this is what you do. We have to think about things in different lights and evaluate things based on our own values and identity of who we want to be, to figure out if those old beliefs are serving us or whether they need to change to enable us to become who we want to be. Perfect example is so here I am, entrepreneur, right? You know, I got my own business. Pam and I share a business. We're business partners. She's a wedding coordinator. And so how do we generate business? How do we get additional clients and get Pam clients for coordinating? Let's produce content. I'm a 56-year-old dude trying to get on YouTube and build YouTube videos. Do you think my videos are cool? Probably not. My children will tell me I'm the farthest thing from cool. But there's the concept of I can't do content, I can't get on YouTube because I need all the stuff and the gear, and I need a script, and I need a company to do this. I have to be perfect. I'm not going to start unless everything's perfect. And my new belief that I had to realize was it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to fall short. It's okay to learn on the way. It's okay to take that initial first step. So I'm shedding that old belief and coming to realization of a new belief. And there's all sorts of shackling beliefs that we have that if we adjust them or look at them differently through a different lens, expand them, and look for those possibilities in the gray area, it might just open up a new beginning for who we want to be. And then when you have those values and that identity clear in your mind, what does somebody with those values and identity do on a regular basis? If my values are I want to produce generational wealth, and so money that outlives me, because really what it is I want my family to have the freedom, the independence, not have to rely on somebody else to take care of them, or something like that. I don't want to put words in your mouth. And my identity is I'm going to be the person who's going to create that for them and give them that freedom. Then that gives me the behaviors of I'll start investing. I'll start investing in stocks and bonds. I'll stop spending. I'll stop spending $6 on coffee 4 days out of the week when I'm going to my office because the coffee shop's right there in the atrium of my building. Yep. So you start thinking about all those changes in behavior and that one little step to get you on that first path to get over the hill. And that little step might be, I'm going to go ahead and stop, or I'm going to take that money, $6 that I would spend on a Frappuccino Maca latte, and I'm going to put that in savings so that I can start investing in building that generational wealth. You do that one step, and then after a week, I'm not going to do the math because liberal arts major, I can't do math, public math. That's why we're business partners. And so all that adds up over time, and so I can start saving that money. Those little micro behaviors get you on the path, and they build confidence in your ability to change. So all this comes together for, many of you have heard SMART goals. Goals have to be specific, measurable. Originally they're supposed to be assignable, but they morphed into achievable, relevant, and timely. What I ended up doing is taking that, it's really the same thing, but to me relevant wasn't spelled out enough. So I made strive for change. Because when I was putting this presentation together, SMART goals, there's a lot of information out there on SMART goals. And if you don't do something, there's articles that say, well, your goals are actually dumb, very negative in nature. So this strive captures what it is, what our experience as human beings is. Because Yoda, if you remember Yoda from Star Wars, Yoda says, there is do and do not, there is no try. Well, Yoda was wrong. There is try. Because trying makes us better than we were yesterday, and tomorrow makes us better than we were today. So try is important. So strive for change. Our goals have to be specific, timely, or time-bound. They have to be relevant. Then we further define relevant as aligned to our identities, anchored in our values to produce importance of that change and build our confidence in it, and then evaluated because it's a continuous process. We're continuously assessing whether our behaviors and identity and values are all aligned. Does one need to change in order to get us over the hill? Or do we need to start changing our path little by little to get to where we actually want to be? So strive for change helps us build importance and confidence to get us over ambiguity or ambivalence. Yes, sir. It's for the people online.
Oh, this is for them, huh? All right, so you were talking the slide before about trying. And being an ex-athlete, the whole trying thing and getting a trophy for trying doesn't resonate very much with me. But the idea of intent may be tied with trying or instead of trying is if your intent is correct. Whether or not you accomplish that goal, let's say in a certain time period, 9 months, I want to have an initial public offering. And the intent is good, the product is good, the market is there, all of those things. So my intent is aligned correctly. We're starting to put the effort in. There's a war that starts somewhere, right? Derails everything. IPOs are off the table. But our intent was correct. We tried. There was no accomplishment. So your intent still remains the same. Your intent becomes kind of one of the fertilizers or whatever of that seed that you planted. So your intent stays in place. Does that fit in that paradigm that you were talking about?
Because, so very complex question. The way I'm interpreting your question is very complex, right? Because really what you're talking about is you're talking about organizational goals. You're talking about other people being involved and not just the things that you're doing. And you're talking about external factors that influence your ability to get to your hill right now is on the other side, but it's being driven by the amount of rain and landslides and all the other things that you don't have control over. Okay, so great question. What I would say is, how do I want to answer this? When you're looking at the change that I'm talking about, is what you can do. So try is important, but it's about action. It's not that intent is good, because your intent is actually, thinking off the top of my head here, but intent really becomes, I'm trying to get over the hill, and I'm going to go down this path. This is my intent. Intent could be switching paths and trying to get over the hill from a different angle or direction, because this helps you avoid the landslides and the rain and all that other stuff. So the most important thing is getting on the path, because that's where so many of us fall short, is actually starting out. So what you're talking about is which path, how, okay.
I agree with you on the path part of it.
Okay.
The intention.
I know it's hard. Your question is valuable for everybody.
Intention is part of the entire planning process. So when you and your wife started a business, you basically stated verbally to yourselves what your intention for that business is, right? And you put a plan in motion that I'm sure that you have altered that plan, improved it many times along the way, right? But your intent, people say goals, but really your intentions haven't changed as to where you want that to take you ultimately. Would you say that your intention has changed? That you wanted this business and now you want something totally different? Or do you simply want a reiteration along the way of what you intended from the start?
Let me try to answer if I can. Let me offer this, and you tell me if this lands on you or how it lands on you. I was working for a company I was not happy with. My intent was not have to wake up and not want to get out of bed and not be willing to go to work. That was my intent. What can I do to take control of my own life so that I can lead it the way I want? And what I determined was starting my business, helping people was my intent. Now, the path that I've been on how to help people, how to get to that end destination, which is to help people succeed, how to help people feel fulfilled and feel better tomorrow than they did today, that hasn't changed. But certainly the path that I'm taking towards there has changed multiple times.
Would you say that there are more than one path that you've taken? That
Yes,
are
absolutely.
Multiple channels.
Absolutely. And there's always the possibility, which I might get to a portion of your question, which is that destination on the other side of the hill might just be a milestone.
Right.
I get over there and all of a sudden I realize that path is much further down the road, and that was just a simple milestone on a much larger path that I didn't even realize.
Yeah, I hope that you get to the point that you talk about those kinds of visions of goal accomplishment and further visions, because it seems like, at least in my life, that when you are approaching that success, that marker, that you realize it's not really where you were going.
Well, and it comes down to the values, right? My value is not to build a company that is going to make $650,000 a year. My value is standing up in front of y'all and talking to you is what hits my dopamine. That's what makes me feel good. So my success metrics are not in terms of dollars. I don't want to take money out of savings. I want to be able to buy dog toys and keep feeding Pam, but my success is how I feel at the end of the night and at the end of the month, not how much money I'm making. And I'm not saying the money is not important, but what I am saying is in my particular case, I'm a retired military person. I have a pension coming in, some VA disability and things like that. I get to eat, I get a roof over my head, so I get to make the choices and jump on a path in life that conforms to my value, that conforms to my identity, that allows me to do the things that I want to do. If I didn't have that, I would probably have much different values in terms of trying to generate $100,000 a year and things like that.
Quick question on that. Why would your values change? Wouldn't it simply be the decisions you made that would allow you to fully express your values? I mean, don't you have values that are rock solid? It doesn't matter if your bank account was emptied out tomorrow, that your values would remain the same. Your actions to get yourself back to the point that we're talking about now, you would have to make decisions, but your values remain the same, don't they?
Our values can remain the same, but they can also change. And the things that change our value is our experiences, the trauma, or something dynamic happens in our life. And I'll tell you, for example, and I don't want to get into too much detail, but when I retired from the military, there's particular reasons why I retired. Retired when I did, why I did, because my values in life began to shift. The priority, it was no longer important for me to be able to be involved in something that's bigger than myself, to protect people. It became, my health is being depleted. My relationship with my wife and my children is being depleted. So our values may not change, but something becomes more important and becomes less important over time based on our experiences and trauma and things like that.
Okay. I can get, to me, values as an expression of virtue are foundational. So my decision making uses that foundation. No matter what, you're shooting arrows at me, you're dropping bombs on me, or you're serving me caviar. My virtues and my values don't shift. I'm not saying they can't be enhanced. Like enlightenment, more enlightenment can definitely come into my life. I would welcome it, right? So I see the world clearer. I see the path. I'm a very religious person. I see the path a little bit clearer to where I want to go ultimately. But circumstances don't materially change my values, and they definitely don't rock my virtues.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Miss Tammy.
That because I was in the corporate space for 23 years, striving to be at the top. But when I got breast cancer, that changed everything for me in my life. I did not value that 6 figures. I did not value having to prove anything. I think life was too short at that point, and I wanted to do something that I love and became a wedding planner. I stepped away from corporate. That money didn't mean it anymore to me. It didn't have that value that it used to have a hold on me. My life was more valuable, and walking away from that stress, you were in the stress, but you were making the money, so it was worth it, but it's not really worth it anymore for me because my life is more valuable.
I appreciate that perspective.
To Al, what I would like you to do, because this is great stuff, right? This is one of the reasons why we're doing the 3 months of coaching, because there's so much to cover there's too much to cover in 60 minutes, but it's a great start. And I want this energy, this dialogue to continue. So as you answer Al's question, go ahead. I want you to kind of, go through, wrap up your presentation, but then really talk about the coaching and what we need to be doing between now and the first coaching session, March 7th.
Tammy, thank you for your perspective. Thank you, sir. I don't necessarily disagree with you. It's a fascinating conversation. But I think just very simply, there's trauma of such significance that it shakes our entire world. Our worldview collapses in on us, and we start thinking about things in very different ways. And I am a person who had that happen just by virtue of the trauma that I experienced. And it shook me from 40 years of life into things that I knew were rock solid, and I found out they weren't. And now I'm a very different person with very different values. Yes, sir. And I really appreciate you bringing it up, though, because it really is important. Because some of us have such a strong anchor that it's hard for us to conceive that those values would ever change. And then some of us have had those experiences where we didn't ever think they would, but they did. And then there's that gap of experience all the way in between us. And it doesn't mean that Tammy's right, you're wrong, or what. It just means those are our experiences. Okay, so very quickly, builds importance because they're anchored in values and identity. I do X, Y, and Z because this is who I am, and I am who I am because I value blank. I'm running towards something and not running from something because I want that reward experience of dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and the goals are meaningful to me, but they're not perfect. They're aligned with my experience and they're aligned with my purpose. Ways to build confidence is progress is better. Today, I'm better than I was tomorrow. I made that incremental step. And your change has got to be within your control. My change cannot be Pam has to treat me better. Because how much control do I have over Pam? 0. We can both tell you that. So the idea is, if your goals are such and such at work needs to be nicer to me, you have no control over somebody at work. But what you do have control over is the ability to say how you're going to react to somebody at work. What are you going to do? If you're not being recognized, can you volunteer for projects? Can you leave and go to another job? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But their goal has to be something that you can control. And those micro changes help build those little wins for us that creates the proof that we can move past ambivalence by building both importance and confidence. So when you start looking at your 90-day plan, you've already got all the information you need through the beginning of the worksheet. Your goal has to be specific. What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? Where are you going to do it? How often? And most importantly, what is it going to look like when you achieve your goal? And then your goal has to be timely or time-bound. What is that simple thing you're going to start today? What after 7 days is it going to look like? What are your milestones for 30 and 60 days? And again, after 90 days, what does success actually look like for you? It's got to be relevant. What is it important about it right now? How is it aligned to your identity? How is it anchored in your values? And then evaluate. And especially evaluation is those celebrations. And celebrations do not mean I don't want to eat chocolate cake, so I didn't eat chocolate cake for 7 days, now I'm going to go reward myself with chocolate cake. You're reinforcing something you're trying to stop doing by continuing to do it. You're reintroducing dopamine stimulation on that thing that you're trying to stop. So if you look at celebration in terms of, I want to celebrate with my spouse. I just lost 5 pounds. Oh, honey, I just noticed your face looks thinner. You know, those clothes are looking better on you. That stimulation of that dopamine is giving me the reward and the celebration to help me continue along that path to keep doing those behaviors. And then barriers. You got to start identifying those barriers ahead of time, those things that are going to get in your way. So for our little micro step of we're going to save $6 a day instead of getting coffee at the coffee shop, I need to start identifying barriers of, well, if my goal is I'm going to make coffee at home and save money, then what happens if I oversleep? Well, you get a coffee pot. Maybe you have a coffee pot that has a timer. You set everything up, you put everything ready to go so you can anticipate those barriers and you can actually evaluate your resources of what you have available to do something about it. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's texting a friend, hey, I'm going to the gym right now. I know you're not awake and hopefully I didn't wake you up, but I'm heading to the gym. Maybe that's a resource you have to be able to help you work past those barriers that you know you're going to experience. So all this describes everything we just talked about. Oops. So Clifton and I were talking about, this is what 9 of y'all answered in terms of what prevented you from succeeding in your 2025 goals. So time, motivation, lack of support, all these things. So what Clifton asked me to do is, if people can't afford to go to a life coach or sit down with somebody, you can coach each other. Your spouses can coach you, you can coach somebody, and the key aspects of that is if you're going to help somebody and be a coach, or if you're asking them to coach you, is they're not there to mentor and consult and advise you to provide you solutions. Because when they give you their pair of shoes to walk on that path, it's not going to fit you. So that person has to be willing just to let you kind of work through this process. You got to be fully engaged. You cannot be watching TV or answering quizzes or looking at Facebook or something like that. If somebody's going to sit down with you, they need to be engaged and focused on you to help you work through this process. And they need to be able to facilitate rather than problem solve. The most important thing is powerful questions. Coaches do not ask yes/no questions, black, white, positive, negative. It's all about open-ended questions, and we don't ask why questions. Because as soon as the word why comes out of our mouth, we immediately go back to being 16 years old and being interrogated by our parents. We get defensive, and we start putting that wall and that shield around us. So asking the how and the what questions. What was it about this that became really important that led you to do X, Y, and Z? How, if you do this action, how is it actually going to get you to that place over the hill? So those how and what questions become really, really important, and just letting go of all the why questions. And then when you sit down with somebody, you don't want to just sit there and complain, right? That meeting, that discussion has got to have a purpose. You know, I sit down with Leo. Leo, I'm trying to figure out how to increase my health and wellness. And at the end of talking today, I want to have some ideas how to do it. That way, we're not going to sit there and talk about politics or all the other stuff going on, where he's going to be helping me think through specifically about that situation so we have a roadmap on what we're trying to achieve. All right, so with all of that in mind, knowing that we got to tie things up here, if you are interested beyond just having a friend coach you, or if you're looking for your own coach, all of that is great. I'm a member of the National Coaching Federation. I have 286 coaches in the Fort Worth Metroplex area. Somebody who has lived a life similar to yours, who has worked through challenges, or who helps clients, whatever your situation is, and I can easily put you in touch with other people who have expertise in whatever area that you're looking at. But what I'm willing to do, and what Clifton and I are going to do, is on follow-up sessions, 10 a.m. Central Time on February 7th, March 7th, and April 4th, we're going to do group facilitation online. This is all going to be virtual. Keep in contact. Make sure, if you have not already, give your contact information to Clifton, that he has it, so that he can pass you the links in the registration to be able to sign up for those group coaching sessions. And what we're going to do is, I'm simply going to be using coaching techniques for that hour and a half to help you, if you're brave enough to get online and ask your questions, or you can sit and listen to other people and learn from other people asking questions, to be able to ask those coaching questions to help people work through, if they're off track, how to get back on track, or how to stay on track. And that's something I'm willing to do. Pro bono, no cost to you. It's just, again, I get enjoyment out of being able to help people. So this is something I want, that Clifton and I talked about through the Empower series, to be able to help people, so that this is not a single day event, and that you can actually develop these patterns over time to make them successful. This little caveat here is ICF has core competencies in code of conduct. Usually when I get involved with coaching engagement, I'm under contract so that my clients know exactly what to expect out of me, and my clients know that they have work to do, which kind of gets to what Clifton was talking about. It is a lot of work, and when you sign up with me as a coach, you're committing yourself to actually peeling that onion back and doing the exploration. And so this is not a formal coaching contract. This is facilitation I'm doing as part of this presentation to be able to help those of you who attended. All right, so your next steps: finish the worksheet, review the video, press pause, work through your 90-day plan, start looking at how you can implement your initial first steps, those micro steps to build those wins, and then pay attention to information coming out from Clifton about the follow-up coaching sessions. And ladies and gentlemen, I wish you the very best, and I hope you great success in whatever your goals and your resolutions are for 2026.
Thank you, man. Oh my gosh. So do you guys, there's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work. So thank you. Thank you for, yeah, and look, this is the beginning of the year, right? So the Empower series this year is not just about going to seminars and going home and feeling good and then not doing anything. We want to really take action and move. So I want to thank you online for those who stuck with us. For those of you who wasn't live, but you came back and watched it, if you email me at thrive@empowerseries.com, that is thrive@empowerseries.com, stay connected and you'll get the information to do the 3 months of coaching. It's February 7th, March 7th, and April 4th at 10 a.m. Central Time. It's going to be live on the first Saturday of every month, the next 3 months. So I have all of your information here who are in the room. If you're online and you want it, again, I'm going to repeat, you got to email me at thrive@empowerseries.com. As we wrap up here, nothing of significance can ever be done alone. So this Empower series is not me. The Empower series is you. It's you online. It's you progressively moving forward towards your goal. And that's what we're all about. So I want to thank you again. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Road Dog, thank you. Thank you for sticking in with me. If you want to stay connected, go to our website, stay connected, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't keep this to yourself, share it with somebody else. If you want, we're a nonprofit organization, so we always will be willing to take volunteers, in-kind services, just like Casey's doing. But also, if you want to donate, you can text, donate or give to you can text, give or donate to 214-225-6337. Go to our website, hit the click and donate. But more importantly, get what you're supposed to get from the Empower series. So until we meet again, be empowered and inspired to thrive. I'll see you next month, but I'll see you next month for the coaching and also for our next event, which is going to be on entrepreneurship. So until then,